Hey everyone, James St. Clair here from 509 Flies and Red's Fly Shop, and today we are going to tie Stalcup's Biot Nymph. And so it's in his book, Mayflies top to bottom. Um, I really like that book. There's a lot of cool. I know my last fly was kind of using a technique from that, but this is like one of his actual patterns. He ties it in a Betis color, and then he has like a couple other color options. And in his little blurb about it, he says it's a really great pattern for PMDs as well. And I know I keep hammering on the PMDs, but they're really prevalent in our area. It kind of starts off on the Yakima River. They're probably hatching right now. I haven't been up there in a little bit. My son's been playing golf. He's in the state golf tournament tomorrow. Super stoked about that. But anyway, so I haven't been up on the river, but usually, especially in kind of warmer years, they start kind of late May and go into June, and then I just kind of follow them up in elevation. So as the Yakima gets a little warmer and the irrigation flows, make the water quite a bit higher, I start to move over into some more higher elevation stuff and just kind of follow the hatches up as they move up into the cooler air temperatures, cooler water, as those creeks and rivers start to warm up. So PMDs and green drake, kind of do that with PMDs and green drake. So I see them a ton. Early part of summer through July on some of these creeks, and then even the higher you go, sometimes you see them all the way to the end of July. So anyways, we got a wrong hook. Sorry, we got a U204 size 14 in the vise. It's a 2x long hook. It's kind of like a 200R, but I like it because it's got a little bit of a wider gape. The 200R, I feel like I don't get quite as many solid hookups, so I really like that U204. We got some Firehole Stone Espresso tungsten beads in 2.5 millimeter. The tail is going to be a feather from a partridge skin. This Nature Spirit #1 partridge skin from up here in this area, so it's a little bit more like dark tan and brown instead of just the straight white and black. Dark tan and black. Use this feather here. So that's tail. Body's going to be these barred turkey biot from Nature's Spirit. This is just in brown. These things are kind of cool. What else we got? Okay, and then we're going to use, for the wing case, I don't have the package, but we're going to use a piece of chartreuse flashabou for the little flashback spot, and then some of this Gen 2 medallion sheeting from MFC in brown. And then the thorax is going to be this UV Hairs Dubbing Plus from Hemingway's in golden. It's really like that color. It's got some real light. It's mostly just hare's ear, but it's got just like a little bit of flash in it, which I like. And then the legs, and the other reason I'm tying this pattern is I had a bunch of this Brahma hen left over from all those dry fly emergers I was tying. So just again, that Brahma hen saddle from Whiting Farms in brown. Okay, so let's get to the vise and tie this bad boy. So, so first thing I'm going to do is put on some of this Semperfli Semperfli lead-free wire in 0.23 millimeter. It's about 0.1 inch. And we're just going to do 8 wraps. Helicopter both sides off. And this again just kind of holds the bead in place. Contrary to what everyone tells you right now, jig hooks are not the only hooks that work for nymphs. These older hooks still work. So, anyways, we got the 52 denier thread from the Fly Smith and just brown. And we are going to attach that thread, kind of jam that Jam that lead up, lead free wire right there. Of course, I got a little loop. Sometimes you catch a little loop with that wire. No big deal. Just catch it and grab that off. Of course, I've tied like a dozen of these and that didn't happen until I started the video. Anyways. Okay, there we go. All right, then we're just going to go back down to the end of the hook. Okay, and a good stopping point on these, because sometimes it's hard to decide, like, oh, do I go back this far? That's probably a little far. But I try and have the thread hang down, and basically, you can't see it, but either the front of the barb or the, you know, kind of right in the center of the barb. I pinch the barb on this. I just know where it is. So anyways, we got this partridge feather I'd already selected and tied a few with. We're just going to grab some fibers, make sure the tips are even, pinch them. Get them ready to tie in. I like the tails a little bit shorter on this fly, so I measure kind of like from the lead wire back instead of the entire hook length. Do a little pinch wrap to keep this on top. Second wrap, just make sure it's on top there. Okay, there we go. Okay, and we're going to wrap all these all the way up. Trying to keep them on top of the hook. Wrap the butts all the way up to the bead, basically. And then we're going to fold them back over and wrap over them. And then we're going to cut them off at an angle. There we go. That's just going to help us create a little bit of a natural taper. Okay, then we're going to go all the way back down to our thread, where our thread ended. Okay, and I have one of those turkey biots I'd already selected. Okay, and we're going to find the notch up here. Okay, so there's a little notch right there where my fingernail's pointing. We want that facing backwards. Okay, if you read it in Shane's book, he says to have it facing forwards. I'm guessing that's because he wraps it different than I do. So with the notch facing forward, with the notch facing backward, when I wrap, this is actually going to turn forward and the notch will be facing forward. So he might have tied it in just a tiny bit different so that the notch was already facing forward and he was automatically wrapping. So that's how I tie that in. Take a little bit of our Loctite. These things are actually pretty durable, but a couple trout teeth and they tend to split on you. Another thing you can do too, if you're having a problem with turkey or goose biots, is you can just moisten these before you tie them in. It makes them just a little bit more pliable. I haven't had any issues today, so I was just wrapping them how they were. Okay, we're just going to make nice even wraps all the way up to about where I left my thread, probably like a third of the way to the hook. And we're going to take an extra wrap because we're going to end up wrapping back over that a little bit. Okay, so we'll get it to like right there. just going to tie that off. See, and we end up wrapping back over it a little bit. So you can use goose biots on this too. I actually do like goose biots. They are, depending on the package you get, they can be super short. So usually they say for a fly bigger than a size 16, so 14 and up, use a turkey biot. Size 16 and down, you can use a goose biot. I actually tied a few of these with a goose biot, and it was plenty. But I don't know, I like the color of that barred turkey biot that I had. Okay, so next step, we're going to tie in our little flashback piece. I'm using chartreuse flashabou, almost like I want it to be a split back, but I know it's not. But a lot of times you see some of these PMD patterns. That's a little bit off to the, too close to me. You'll see some of these PMD patterns, they'll do like the split back where they'll have like a stripe of yellow foam or something in the middle, like the wings are starting to pop out. I feel like on a bead head nymph, that's a little silly, because if you're fishing them way down on the bottom, they're probably not quite ready to hatch yet. So they wouldn't necessarily be splitting, but there's a lot of split back PMDs and they seem to work fine. So, okay, and then I have prepared like this little piece of medallion sheeting. This is actually left over from a few of the flies I've tied. I've cut a little notch in it just to reduce bulk and kind of help me guide where the center of this is, because we want it about equal on both sides, so when you pull it over, it's not hanging to one side. That looks pretty equal. And I kind of just fold it over and wrap it back to where our body ends. And just double check that. And I'm probably even going to dub a little bit further back. Okay, now we're going to dub the thorax. In Shane's book, he likes to use a dark colored dubbing, like basically the same color dubbing of the body and stuff like that, which is totally fine. Some nymphs actually do have like the same color scheme from top to bottom, but I feel like when you flip these PMD nymphs over here in Washington, the top's pretty dark, but when you flip them over, the bottom's got almost like this golden color instead of brown, like the color on top of the fly. So I like to have like just a little bit lighter dubbing up in the thorax. Okay, and so I'm dubbing here. You can see it's got tiny little bit of a taper going. I leave like a little spot up by the bead. Just a little less dubbing, because we're actually gonna, after we tie these legs in, we're gonna dub over them. Okay, so I've got that prepared hackle feather. So you could either, if you want, you could just strip some off and tie them in on each side. But another easy way to do it is just tie this V in on top. And I take 2 wraps, and then I start to pull it a little bit. Okay, and then you just kind of hold them down to the side and pull on it, trying to keep them separated, meaning on each side. And then you just pull till you get the length you want, and I'm pretty close right there. That looks maybe a tiny bit long. Oop, that's too short. Restart. Got a good pull on that last one. looks good right there. So about like that. Okay, and then once you get those where you want them, secure it with a couple wraps. And then I like to go in front as well. Okay, and we're going to clip that off. Okay, and then see there's basically out of that feather I'll probably get 2 flies. So we'll save that piece for the next one. Okay, and like I said, we're just going to do a little extra dubbing up here. You don't want to go crazy with it, but you kind of want to cover up that stuff you clipped off, and then just fill in the little gap there. Okay, and you can also kind of hold your legs down so that it helps separate them. And go pretty much right up to the end of the bead there. There we go. Perfect. Okay. And the last little deal here is we're going to get this wing case tied in. Of course. Happened on video. Okay. There we go. I think we're good now. Okay. This is driving me nuts. Sorry, you can't see it, but as I'm pulling this down, this thing is catching these 2 legs over here. There we go. Like the fish would care, right? I realize the fish won't care. I'm just super anal when it comes to fly tying. Okay, so catch that with like 2 solid wraps. We're going to pull our flashback over. Catch that with 2 solid wraps. And then I like to just pull those up and wrap in between the bead there. Okay, that's in there solid. So we'll clip off the flashaboo. Again, it's a little helpful to have some tweezers here. And we want to clip this medallion sheeting as close as possible. Okay, there we go. That's basically the finished fly. We're going to throw our whip finishes in there. So we'll do 1, 2. Start that over. 1, 2, 3. And with the nymphs especially, I like to get a couple extra in. I just feel like when they're down there around the rocks and stuff, and sometimes they get stuck on a branch or whatever, it can fray that thread a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to do the UV cure here in a couple different steps. You could actually just fish this like it is. Shane did not put UV cure on his, but I like, again, some added durability. So first, we're going to just do the thread. Okay. So we got the thread, and then before I do the thorax, sorry, the wing case, I like to brush this out a little bit here. The dubbing I tied in for the thorax. Just kind of mix it in with the legs a little bit, get it buggy. Okay, and then last thing before, sometimes you'll get some real long ones in there. I don't like those. I like it buggy, but I don't like super random stuff like sticking out. That doesn't look like anything. Be careful when you're doing this not to cut your beautiful little legs that you tied in. Okay. Last thing, we're going to put some UV resin over the thorax, again for durability. Shane did not do that. Okay, and there you have it. That is Shane Stalcup's Biot Nymph in PMD color. So again, he ties it for Betas. He has some other variations in his book as well. One of these is this brown color scheme, which I like for PMD. He has as optional in the recipe the bead, so he ties them without beads as well. And then for the wingcase, he said medallion sheeting or flashback. I liked the look of it with both the medallion sheeting and the flashback, especially since I'm using a matte color bead. That little flash just gives a little bit extra attraction. But anyways, that's the PMD. So if you guys have any comments, I'd love to hear them. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.